It was one of the darkest and stormiest nights ever, but it sure didn't start that way. Joseph was leading a small army from Ohio to Missouri called Zion's Camp. They were going to peacefully return the saints to their homes they'd been forced out of in Jackson County. However, the angry Missourians didn't like that plan, and while Zion's Camp was overnighting by the fishing river, some armed Missourians rode up, boasting that they had over 400 men waiting to destroy the Mormon camp that night. Having previously prayed to know what to do, Joseph prophesied to his camp, "Stand still and see the salvation of God." That night, one of the worst storms they'd ever seen pummeled the area. The weather kept the armed mob far away, while the members of Zion's Camp sheltered safely in a small church nearby. Joseph testified, "God is in this storm." Now, it was back in February 1834 when Joseph declared he was going to help the suffering saints and tried to recruit all able-bodied men to accompany him. It took a while to gather enough men, money, and supplies, but in May, the Camp of Israel took off. Eventually, the group reached 207 men, 11 women, 11 children, and 25 baggage wagons. The prophet recalled, "God was with us, and his angels went before us, and the faith of our little band was unwavering. We know that angels were our companions, for we saw them." Talk about your dream team. To be clear, they weren't a conquering army. They were just going to assist the saints who'd been forced from their homes to return peacefully to their properties. Missouri Governor Daniel Dunklin had even promised to send the state militia to help the saints safely return. Now, each morning, Zion's Camp awoke to reveille at 4 a.m., prepared for their day, and then marched roughly 35 miles every day for 45 days, resting only on the Sabbath. Okay, have you ever done a Pioneer Trek reenactment and faced bugs, heat, dirt, blisters, and pain? Yeah, it was much worse than that. They didn't have Nikes, granola bars, cooled lemonade, pop-up tents, and support vehicles driving things around. And the food? Ugh, it was awful. Plus, it didn't even fill them up. Unsurprisingly, there was a lot of complaining and contention among various members of the group, and the prophet had to continually remind them that if they didn't humble themselves, they'd have problems. One member of the group was named Sylvester Smith, no relation to the prophet, or an actor. He had an especially negative attitude and spent lots of time loudly complaining and leading the dissensions.
Yo, why don't we have more food? My muscles are killing me. Where's Adrian?
Joseph called him and others to repent, saying, "You will meet with misfortunes and hindrances before you leave this place, unless you humble yourselves before the Lord and become united." The following day saw the prophecy fulfilled when, as they awoke, they found nearly every horse was sick or lame. Nevertheless, the prophet promised if they would humble themselves and resolve their discord, their animals would be immediately healed. They repented and humbled themselves, and by noon, all of the horses were ready to travel again, except for Sylvester's horse, which died.
Ooh, my worst nightmare.
Now, the camp was blessed to travel with 11 women, including sister-in-laws Nancy and Eunice Holbrook, who helped with the cooking and laundry. As they entered Missouri, Joseph felt it was too dangerous for the women to continue, so he told their husbands to find a safe place for their wives and children to stay until they could return. However, Nancy, Eunice, and several other women objected to being left behind. They were ready to do battle for the suffering saints. Joseph said if they were willing to undergo siege, they could continue on. These were fearless women. Unfortunately, as the camp traveled through Missouri, Governor Dunklin broke his promise to help the saints go back to their homes, saying that if Zion's Camp entered Jackson County, it would probably turn into a bloodbath that he couldn't prevent. Now, the night after the storm on Fishing River, the prophet received Section 105, in which the Lord stated, "I do not require you to fight the battles of Zion, for I will fight your battles. I have heard your prayers and will accept your offering." And, just like that, the march was over. However, some of the men were so wound up and ready to fight, they were now angry at the Lord for not letting them fight.
You stop this fight, I'll kill you.
Displeased, the Lord allowed another trial to chasten them, and many members of the camp came down with deadly cholera. Several died. So, was Zion's camp worth it, even though they didn't fight and the Missouri Saints didn't return to Zion? Absolutely. Many of the men and women who marched in Zion's camp went on to accomplish a slew of great things in the restored church. They'd gone through the refiner's fire and came out the other side more pure and ready to be obedient, humble servants of the Lord. The deadly cholera that had spread through the camp even struck Joseph, who became so sick he nearly died. Faced with his own mortality, he became very worried about what would happen to the church if he died. From that point on, he began to call and train as many other leaders as he could, which we'll learn about next time.
It takes a lot to make these videos, so to keep Line Upon Line free for everyone, consider signing up for Living Scriptures Plus. Check it out by clicking the link in the description below. And thanks for watching. If you feel this video has helped you on your path towards truth and Christian discipleship, please subscribe and share. And most importantly, go read the scriptures for yourself.